Okay. Apparently I waited too long on my pause, so I'm going to start all over and delete the other one. Here's that tube I was talking about. I will say what it is. Let's look at it here. 6 EU7s. Not good to build with. They're expensive. And the heaters are pin 1 and 2. Stay away from them. 6... What does that say? 6B... What the hell does it say? That's these things. 6BA6, I think. Can you read that? 6BD6. Well, BA6, 6BA6. You can use 6AU6. You can use all kinds of those IF tubes. The 6FM8. Okay, that's this tube. What it is a diode. And let me find the other one. See if we can see through it. These are new old stock. A diode. And a second diode. Where, let me see. Okay, a diode. A diode. There you can see them. And a triode. Okay, 2 diodes and a triode, and that makes the compressor. Okay, this is a base. Okay. And I only see one of these amplifiers, and I like to build things that are unique, so I didn't think a compressor, where is it? Compressor was a good idea on any amplifier, because I thought, well, people like distortion, and this is going to back it down, but this thing has never functioned properly. At many times I was going to put a potentiometer in here to the feed of this triode to try to mellow this thing out. All it has was this switch, and it was either way too much or not enough. But I could use the amp if I wanted by pulling out these tubes. I think, right? Yeah, it was these tubes, because you got to have these in, because these are this is where the heck up it adjusts the control grid biasing on these two. What they have, 6BD6. I have 6BA6. I use 6AU6 too. They're a lot more gain. They're more gain than 6AU6 than the 6BA6. But anyways, it alters the control grid biasing. It comes from these diodes. And I have a big problem with this overdub, overkill. So I think my problem could be I'm going to remove these 2 orange drops I put in there, and I think here. Okay, I'm going to try to get the ceramic plate capacitors. But I also was going to probably put a plate capacitor here. I call them plate capacitors. That's what we called them, me and a neighbor kid, when the 1970s, when we would build stuff. It's the ceramic plate capacitors anyways. But again, I have an orange drop here, and I'm being overfed. It's too violent here. Can I use that word? It's too horrific. It moves it too quickly. It backs off the, if you got a sound coming through, it backs it off way too quick or something. I can't remember. I haven't used this in about 10 years, and back when I built this, I was drinking a lot, and I never got out to put a potentiometer in here to, have an adjustment to how much signal is going to be applied to that, I guess. So anyways, this is it. Trouble control. That's the... I'm gonna take this circuit, and these are nice tubes to build with. And well, I don't know these for sound because it's not being for sound here. It's I guess voltage control stuff here, but I would like to make like a compressor, a simple one, so I could use these two tubes, and experimental thing, and maybe you could have inputs and outputs, and use it in a guitar signal path or something. I'm not sure, but I like to experiment, so I will do this in case if anybody was interested in the schematic. And I have 4 6L6s. The only thing I didn't know here, I think I have a 2.2 meg, and I would sit there and look at that and wonder, does that say 22 meg or 2.2? This is the hell is it? 3.9? I'm not sure. 470K, I can't read these, 82Ks, I guess, 470K, 100K, 100K. This says negative, doesn't say negative, positive 305 volts. I don't know. But it's an interesting power amplifier. And it has this, which I thought was cool. First amp I first thing I ever had with a voltage regulator. But my problem is this, then that. It's another problem I have, but that's that. I built that like Christ 15 years ago, but this is it. I put it down on a blanket here. I use a couple tube sockets out of Roberts reel-to-reel. Here these things are. These are the Roberts reel-to-reel things. Because I like building with older tube sockets. I thought they used better steel. But then listening to another guy, he says they fatigue. These tube sockets suck. That's what holds my 6BA6s. This one here I blackened up by putting in my one TV sweep generator thing. It blackened that right up. They were brand new tubes. This one still looks brand new, but this one got blackened up from the sweep generator. Didn't take long either, so that must be hard on these things. But this is it anyways. But that's worth 50 watts, I think. I left this kitchen open here to put a second transformer there, which I never did do. I got both of them going to that at this time. This is way underpowered. That's only, luckily, if it's worth 250L or two of these 6L6s. It's going to need two of these. And here's that gas voltage regulator. So I don't know what to do on this thing. Fender, choke, switches, one's on off. This thing, my hole saw was old and it vibrated. My hole's too big to put a light in there. I gotta find some washers. These are all loose. But anyways, that's that. But okay, I'm gonna set this down for a moment. But this is where I'm at. See, I've been purchasing all these things, and they suck. I don't like them anymore. I like these, the blue ones. There's my bias adjustment for the 4 6L6s. I probably should have had one per side, but I didn't. Here's negative control grid, power supply. But I got a lot of these. I'm not happy with them. I even broke one. I just broke it, twisting it around to read the... Oh, where'd that go? The brand. Where is it? Right here. So I like this blue color stuff way better. But here's all my orange drops. So I have to take out the 2.1s, and probably that 0.02 I'll turn to plate capacitors. I hate to do it. I wanted all orange drops, but there's one way down here below sea level that will be hard to get at, but it's all mostly flame-proof resistors. Here's an antique capacitor I chose to use. I put a lot of grounds around. I got grounds spinning all over this place. All this wire stuff, I put grounds all over the place. I got them swinging all over the place when I build something. Because I grind this stuff and put Vaseline on there, and I want good ground, so I figure if I'm grounding through tube sockets or what have you, I have a lot of black wires snaking around. You know, a lot of these go from one ground to another ground just to keep a ground established. So I do overkill, but now if I see, here's that rectifier. Looks like my leads are stretching, but I have to get a better power transformer. This ain't worth the crap. I need to get something that will operate a Fender 4 6L6s or 4 5881s. But I'd like to keep the gas rectifier in here if I could, just for looks mainly. I could rid it, but I got a lot of capacitors around here. That's the problem. I need a second 5U4 also. So that's why I never got back into this, because if I want to run 4 6L6s, I have to make some major changes, and then this audio output transformer that's right here is going to be underpowered, so I'll have to either put a second one or get a 100-watt one. So it's kind of been incomplete for a long time, but I might get back into it. But I have a feeling I have to replace all these black ones again. I think these will be fine, but I'm not a fan of these things anymore. Orange drops may have to go around that compressor area, so they're good here for DC blockers on the control grid of the 6L6s, but I don't know. And here's my other project here. That's another upside down thing. I bought a power transformer. I used one. Again, too small. There's again Fender choke. I never finished the preamps in here. This takes 2 6SN7s, 4 807s. This was going to be my so-called last amp I built. It's going to have 4 807s, audio output transformers. Obviously it's stereo. It's cathode biased. I didn't build a negative control grid power supply for it. And I'm glad I didn't, because these things can red plate. I didn't know they were such wimpy. They're actually wimpy tubes. So I have that. Takes 4 807s, 2 6SN7s. One of the tube sockets wasn't the greatest. Has these. And this is another problem I have, is this also is going to need a second 5U4. Bigger transformer. And the problem is, if I go to the Fender style transformers, they don't have 5.0 filaments for the 5U4. They have a negative, they have windings for making a negative control grid power supply, but they don't have to get onto this. This is all hearsay when I'm building. I just go. This was a copy of a theatrical amplifier, and then I started, this I think I have a preamp for this out of a RCA tube manual. This I took from a Univox guitar amplifier that had 12 AU7s, because I wanted 6SN7s in it, with the 807s, OD3s. Them light up pretty good. That's why I want to try to keep it, That's the problem. If I go to a Fender, I may have to get rid of these, and I don't want to. I wish I would have went with, I guess, single-ended instead of 4 tubes. But that's that. But anyways, this was just about this, pulling these out of here. So I have to pause this. This time I'm going to hit pause. Last time I did not hit pause. I screwed it up. So I'm back to this. Seems to be working fine. I have my generator hooked up to it. I wanted to check the high voltage. I'm afraid to use any of this stuff because of the sawtooth. When I had the original capacitors hooked up, the high voltage ones, I actually took my yellow voltmeter and hooked up to it. It was like, I think around 750 volts maybe. And then I put these 2 orange drops in there. I found them from amplifiers or something I tore apart. So there's one there, and there's one right there straight ahead. And I have those in series. They're 0.1 each at 600 volts. So I don't know what's going on with it, because I hooked it back up to my yellow voltmeter, and it started a little bit of the 4th of July bit with it. So that's why I'm afraid to hook this up. Even though this is worth 2,000 volts, I'm afraid of that sawtooth frequency or whatever's happening in there. Well, it's not there. It's just, I guess, poorly filtered high voltage. And that stuff is snappy. I know it. I dealt with it in 1950s amplifiers and stuff with like 16 microfarad capacitors. It's very shaky, nasty stuff. But anyways, I'm about done with this project. That is the original rectifier. I put it on my tube tester and it worked, so it must have just been a bad connection. But regardless, this was still shorted. Gave me my B plus voltage short near that wire wound resistor, I think, because this circuit board was floating. You can still see this is bent. It's not the great. I don't know why it's all bent, but must have been heat. In the center there's a hump, and that hump, I can't tighten down that bolt because of the hump. This is bent. You can see that bend. Apparently it got dropped, and that's why this potentiometer had to be replaced. It's supposed to be a 2K with a 220 ohm. So I'm gonna play around with this. I have a few more electrolytics there. You can see that one. Looks like it was shot with a BB gun on the upper part there. Huh. But that's going to be replaced. But I wanted to play around with it a bit because the top tube on there is the 12BH7 and the bottom one is that 6AN6, I believe. It's a triode and a pentode, I believe. And far over is your 12AU7 again. The electrolytic right there, I just have, I think, the bottom one hooked up the flat. I think it's a 50 microfarad. The others have been eliminated with these 1990 blue ones and a crappy gray one in there someplace. So that's about it with this. I loosen that up, straighten this, so I have a straight signal there. I mean, it's straight across. I got the BN. I never did finish up with the BNC or the, what are those things called? Okay, and I'm gonna hook up here. If I can. Oh boy, my eyes are bad. So I get a decent square wave. As you can see, I have to read in my heat book and see what to calibrate here to get that whip out of there. Not too bad. At least it's not wandering too bad. It does get a shake in there, so and I finally bit the bullet and tape this together. So you got your signal coming in. There's those, probably to adjust that square wave. Here I got my, supposed to be 2000, which is a 1000, and this one is the electrolytic, so if that's passing DC through that, maybe it shouldn't. That's supposed to be what, negative 0.6, 6A and 8. Looks like an expensive tube. I have extras of these. These used to be vertical oscillators. I don't know if it was just a vertical oscillator and output, because usually they got a huskier triode for one side. If you look at the 13FM7s or those kind of tubes, which are 6-volt filaments, but probably for something like this. But so here I have the 2.1s in series. This one I just cut and it's just there. It's not hooked up. That's where I'm gonna pull those other 2 orange drops out of that other amp I built, and I think the only one left to change is this one, so, and this whole thing. So I think I'll leave it at this. This is the end of this one, I guess. I'm gonna try to set it up and use it for things though. But I'm gonna put a resistor in here, I think. Is that flickering now? Put a resistor in here, try 100 ohm, maybe a 22 ohm or something. I think I have a 22 1 watt for flame proof to try to dim that up. That's too bright. And seems to be a pretty good scope yet. I bought this 100 megahertz to replace that, to try to get a 100 megahertz one, but that 100 megahertz, I cannot, this and this will not stay synchronized. this one will keep jittering. And then I was using that thing, and all of a sudden the capacitor blew up inside of it. So I'm sending it back to the guy, and I'll just keep using this, I guess. The other one was a little more compact, but it would have been a little nicer for me, but it's hard to buy these things, especially I paid, what, $185 to get it here and everything, so it's kind of expensive if you're don't necessarily need it. I wanted it, but if it needs to recap in calibration, I'd never be able to pull off a calibration. I'd be lucky if I can score the parts. And this one here, I've seen a guy did one of these, and now I'm touching it. Now I let go. Touching it. Let go. So he put some shielded cable there. It looked like he used some pretty high capacity stuff because it was very small in diameter. So I think I'll do that. Then you have that long legged capacitor. I mean, that's a lot of, a lot of area. They should have had one of those old springs they used to use in soldering several points. I used to see those in amps. And this 300 ohm balanced wire, I think I have a chunk around someplace, because this is making a mess in here. It's all chipping apart, and there's one of the electrolytics that had to be replaced, and I think that's another 12AU7. No, and this one's a 6C4, and the other one back there is a 6J6. Where is it? Right there, I guess. No, third one back, right there. 6J6. These blackjacks, I don't know. I'll replace those. There's another electrolytic there. It's full of them. So I guess I'll leave it at that. That's enough time spent. And on this board, I put, to make sure I have a true ground, that and that. I don't like the nut and bolt bit. I don't like just depending on that kind of stuff for my ground. I like solder points, so that's that. I don't check the resistors. I'm just assuming they're good. I have no reason to check them, I don't think, because I might have to lift them out. If I start checking them, then I'll have to replace them. But I would like to do these electrolytics, especially the one that's been shot by a BB gun. So I got one there and one there. So there's 3 of those, and the 300 ohm balanced wire. And I think I touched on the 1K I put in there with the 220 ohm. That's still the original 220 ohm. So got a little more work for it, but seems to be worth it. Now that I'm kind of familiar with these, I didn't know what I was up against. And then I'm stupid. I ordered another one. It's coming in the mail. And that's, I can't remember what it is. It's basically really similar to this, except for it's more of a square rectangle thing with the black and the red knobs, like, well, like more like these kind of knobs, but red and a black tip, I think. Vacuum tube one, I would assume, but this one seems to be pretty good for working on things. I used it working on my TVs and stuff, so. But I still don't know how to use those generators for aligning IFs. I cannot get those shapes people get. I cannot get those. And I'm going to fart around with that with this one, I think. But I didn't even know this had the XY mode. I couldn't find it. It was too far away from me, and now I have it raised up so I can see it. It's all the way down there, but I don't think it works really good. I'm not sure. I don't know much about that. I try to watch people working with that stuff, but I don't really understand what they're doing when they're hooking up their generators and stuff. I don't really know what they're setting their settings at, you know. I guess you just go to XY and have this on. I would have this on alter, and down here I would have it on vert, which I'm probably at. I can't see. I have my record and pause and stop buttons in my way. I'm up, so I think center. Where am I? I can't see it. My stop, record, and buttons are in my way on the cell phone. I can't remember. I think this one is. I can't even see what I'm switching. Here I can see it. Okay, channel 2, I think, channel 1, and center is vert mode. Or this one. I don't know which one I'm switching. There's 3 of them here. I don't know. Well, one of them have vert mode. I'll have to look at them. So I guess I'll stop. I don't know. I'm afraid to hook that up. And I don't know how to read the oscilloscope for voltage enough anyways to see if it's... I gotta get this moving so I don't burn my screen. Where the hell am I? Where the hell am I? I gotta do something here. Get her synchronized. Usually when I have it going for a long time, I basically turn my brightness down so I can just barely see it. And usually if I have the lines going across, I usually just shoot them out of sync, you know, down towards the top and bottom so it don't burn my screen. I always have my mess. So this is the most I use this thing ever. I never use this thing. But now my battery's going dead. Okay, that's it. This is full brightness. Like I say, I have to take that down. I'm going to try that resistor, whatever. I thought I had a 22 ohm 1 watt fireproof, and see what that will do. I'm not sure. It's the 6 volt bulb. I didn't have any 12 volt bulbs to put in there. This is it. Today's February 19th, 2021. Orange Beginner's Corner.